Okay, well, hello again, MGTOW. I don't have any images for you on this video. This is only an audio file, and the reason being, um, it's dark. It's dark, so I don't have anything nice to show you guys. But I did want to go through some points here. Some videos I've been watching. I've noticed that again, a couple of guys have been coming into the manosphere, and I want to say that to put it mildly, there's just it's kind of our fault that these guys are putting videos out there that do not reflect the philosophy as it was originally intended to be disseminated. And the reason is we forgot about the basics, and we assumed that people will come to the philosophy and they will look at the what we were talking about, and they will understand the basics. And now what we have is some guys out there that are putting out new content. Some of it is great, some of it is red pilled, but a lot of it is just out of bounds. And so I want to go through some points here. First of all, the idea that MGTOW is a whole bunch of men getting together under one flag, and MGTOW was never about that. MGTOW was about individual men choosing to follow their own path in life. And if eventually we grew as a group, and we began to identify ourselves individually as MGTOW, but we're not a group. We really aren't. We are a community, but we do not we're not a group in the sense that we're out there fighting for activism. We're not a group in the sense that we are basically holding a flag against perhaps feminism or claiming territory or anything of that sort. We're just a whole bunch of guys, decentralized. We are decentralized, and in fact, this decentralization is what gives us, or what has given us the ability to persist through some of the persist and resist some of the attacks that have been made against us as a community. And the reason is because if they can't pinpoint a single guy and say, you know what, if we take that guy out, we're gonna do away with the MGTOW community, then it's very hard to to fight us all together. And so MGTOW is not about a whole bunch of men getting together under one flag. That is not what it's about. Again, we are decentralized. It's basically to each his own. Every man for himself kind of deal. It's kind of like think about it like a buffet, right? You come to a buffet, right? And but think about a buffet where there's no line, right? You don't have to stand in line. You just kind of serve yourself. There's a whole bunch of different foods out there. Some of it vegan, some of it southern food, some of it Indian food, some of it classic American food, some of it new American food, some of it, you name it, right? There's a whole section of soup. There's a whole section of Indian food. Again, there's a whole section of Chinese food, Latin food on one side. And when you come to MGTOW, it's like a buffet of ideas, right? Pertaining to men's issues. And you come to this gigantic buffet and you take what works for you, as long as you adhere to the three core principles of MGTOW. And these are nothing new. These are the core principles of MGTOW. And those are no marriage, right? No cohabitation, or not living together with a woman, or not no committed. The first one was no marriage or committed relationships, right? Because if you're committing to a woman, then you're not moving away from gynocentrism. The second one is no cohabitation, for the same reasons. And the last one is no kids. But when we mean no kids, we mean no new babies for you, right? Because if you're out there getting women pregnant, right, that means that you're not moving away from the courts. You're not moving away from misandry. You're not moving away from gynocentrism. You're not moving away from being overly taxed. So that's why we say no kids. But no kids means no new babies, right? If you already have children, many of us MGTOW already have children, and that doesn't stop anyone from being able to call himself a MGTOW. Next is that we should be a brotherhood that values men. Again, the idea of brotherhood in MGTOW is kind of secondary. It's not a primary thing of MGTOW. We are decentralized. We are not groupies, and there are some guys out there that especially I know of one that was a monk, and is now MGTOW, and that's okay. We don't hold anybody here in this community hostage, right? If whatever you want to do, that's your thing, but we are not a brotherhood, right? And this MGTOW brother, I should call him that. Sometimes he recruits people to go and mass do mass dislikes of another video or whatever. That's not necessary here in the MGTOW community. We are not a group, and we are not a brotherhood. Again, we are a decentralized group, and that's in large part where we derive our strength from. Next is the idea that we're supposed to rally around each other. And as far as I'm concerned, MGTOW is a Stoic philosophy. We're not out there rallying around each other or around anything. Again, we just put out ideas in a very Stoic manner, in a very formal, in a very decentralized way, right? Sort of like a father giving advice to a son or whatnot, or one fellow man giving advice to another, right? Or handing out tips to another man. That's all that it is. We're not supposed to be out here rallying around each other. We can leave that for some other groups. Next is this other idea that we shouldn't be mass-produced, right? We should not be mass-produced men. And with MGTOW, that again, the underlying principle is that to each his own, right? So I think that's been addressed enough. If you watched any of the older MGTOW content providers, in the past, not even a year, in the past 6 months or so, right? You should have this idea down pat. Next is that we should have a central foundation of what MGTOW is, or that we don't have it yet. And again, I'm gonna reiterate these concepts here. The 3 pillars of the MGTOW philosophy are as follows. Number 1, no marriage or committed relationships, no cohabitation, and no kids. It's that simple. And we should not let that simplicity throw us off, because we are used to more complex things. That is, in fact, one of the things that makes MGTOW so powerful. That is the fact that it's simple. So yeah, sometimes it appears that because some guys out there are conducting business in the MGTOW community as if they were in Facebook. It appears that we're recruiting people to do this or that or the other, but MGTOW is not about any of that. Again, we fall back to those 3 basic principles, and that's that. Then there's this issue that some guys think that is that if they talk to girls, that they're gonna give up being MGTOW or something, right? And nothing can be further from the truth. Number 1, we MGTOW, we have mothers, and many of us have daughters as well, right? And we have to interact with women on a daily basis at work, and in places where business is conducted, right? Such as grocery stores and gas stations, and other restaurants and other service oriented businesses. So the idea that you're gonna give up the philosophy by talking to women is just not true. You can choose to limit your interactions with members of the opposite sex if that's what you wish. If that Excuse me, sorry about my accent here. It's kind of late during the day. If that's what you wish to do, then by all means, as long as you adhere to those core principles of the philosophy, then no one's gonna stop you from doing that. But we don't necessarily advocate that, and we think that even for a monk like me, like myself, I think that's rather on the extreme end of things. And then you say, well, what, sweet padre? What if you choose to pump and dump, right? What if you choose to have a relationship with a woman? Well, two things here, right? If you pump and dump, then that's okay. You're still MGTOW, right? You're a low-level MGTOW, which is okay. I mean, it's not levels like a Nintendo game, or the higher the level you go, the better. No, you choose your level of interaction with women and the rest of society. You have that choice, that right. MGTOW is all about men's freedom and choices, and that's that, right? So if you choose to pump and dump and call yourself a MGTOW, yes, as long as you don't marry this person, as long as you don't impregnate this person, and as long as you don't move in with her, then you're still MGTOW. There's no problem there. But once you make a commitment to this person, right, and you say, well, honey, we've been dating for a while. Why don't we just make it official, right? You're my official girlfriend now, or something like that, right? You're now committed to this person. Again, that's totally fine. We don't go against that. Our philosophy is not about that. It's not about limiting men's freedom. But at that point, then you're no longer a MGTOW. You see, because you have crossed that line. Where that we have drawn, right? So you can call it whatever you want, but it's not MGTOW. See? So now at that point you drop the label, or we would expect you to drop the label of MGTOW, right? If you still want to be part of this community. And I did say community, I did not say group. All right. Moving on here. Whoa, this one's a tough one. So we have the idea that, if you engage a little bit in something, right, it's okay. That, the idea that sometimes people do things because they're fun, right? In other words, that you can interact with women in an intimate way, right? And still call yourself a MGTOW. I think I've already clarified this point, and that's no issue. But then there's something here. If say for example that I don't know, you enjoy having sex, and this is not to offend anyone, but say for example that you enjoy having sex with men, right, as opposed to women. Well, does that make you gay? Right? Of course it makes you gay. You're having sex with men, right? You're not having sex with women, and you're not being a monk, and you're not masturbating or whatever. You're having sex with men. So that if you did it in a willing manner, right? If you weren't raped, then yes, you are gay, right? So if you do drugs, right, and if you taste drugs, right, again, you don't do them because they're gonna you wish to become addicted or whatever, right? But if you taste drugs because you think they're going to be a little fun or whatever, then, you may not be a drug addict, but you are a drug user. So again, if you're going into committed relationships, right, then you're just not MGTOW, right? You can call yourself whatever you want, but you're not MGTOW. Now, if you're pumping and dumping, right, and you're not getting the girl pregnant, and you're not getting married, and you have no plans of getting married in the near future, in the far future, then again you are, or you're able to call yourself a MGTOW. We have clearly defined these things here, so that there is no confusion, right? Again, when it comes to kids, it's all about the new kids, right? Once you take the red pill, once you absorb this idea that women are, that we are under a gynocentric system that benefits women at the expense of men, why would you want to have kids? You see? And so it's not about the kids that you already had. It's about the kids that you may have in the future, right? If you're having kids, then you're feeding the system. You see? So you wouldn't call yourself a MGTOW. You can't call yourself a MGTOW because you're feeding the beast that is consuming us all. Next is the. Now I've mentioned that I read. You see, I've mentioned that I read, that I like reading. I enjoy reading. I've enjoyed reading in the past. Unfortunately, in these more current days, I have not had the opportunity to read as much as I should and as I would like, because I've been so busy running my business, and it's just not something I can do as much. But there are levels of understanding certain things, you see, and we can benefit from reading by absorbing the concentrated knowledge that is found in books. People who write books, right? And I'm not talking about the crappy books that they force you to read in school or whatever, right? But people who write books usually have had a tremendous amount of experience. And again, I'm not referring to trashy romance novels or anything. I'm talking about how-to books, or books on understanding a specific topic in a broader sense, right? People who write books have had tremendous experience with a certain topic, and they just condense it and they put it in this paper form for you to absorb it, and it's all benefit to read. See? And can you learn everything from a book? Absolutely not. Of course not. I mean, there are some things that you gotta get out there and do, right? You can't learn to balance a bicycle by reading a book. You have to put your foot on the pedals or whatnot. But it's definitely beneficial. And this idea that the bookworm doesn't really get it, right? Doesn't really get the street knowledge, right? It's outdated. You see, in today's day and age, we have to have both book knowledge and street knowledge. And I think that sometimes I myself can be smart and stupid at the same time, if that makes any sense. But I haven't been guilty of being that stupid. I used to drive a cab in a major city in here in the United States, and so I've seen plenty of what the streets have to offer. I've seen the best and the worst, and so and I've also read, so who knows, right? And now I'm a trucker, and so I've seen pretty much the whole continent, right? Parts of Mexico, United States, Canada. So I think I've seen what's out there. But there's always someone that's gonna know more than I am, more than I know. That's for sure. So next we have this idea that if women only had the job of bearing children and taking care of the home, there would be no MGTOWs, right? The idea that feminism has created MGTOW, and that is partly true. Partly, I say, because um, if it wasn't as extreme as it is today, if the situation wasn't as, if the consequences weren't as dire as they are today, in regards to men and women's issues, then there wouldn't be as many of us as MGTOW, and there would not exist an established philosophy like what we have today. But in the past, including medieval times and Roman times, there were men who chose to walk away from more traditional systems, and they did so because they recognized that um, they there were there was little benefit for them in that in choosing to partake in this activity, um, or form part of this institution that we call marriage. Has traditionalism created feminism? Maybe, and I say maybe because um, in the early days of the past century, many people who um, considered themselves traditionalists actually fought against giving women or granting women the rights to vote, and true enough, some of the men who were involved in this process also chose to to believe that women were better off without an education. I do not believe that's the case. I think women can be educated. I think